Aaron Rodgers looks like he grew up wanting to play for the New York Jets, Rob. I mean, my goodness, he is all over the town, which is great. He's at the Rangers playoff games. He's at the Knicks playoff games. He actually said on Pat McAfee's show, Rob, that he has to pinch himself every day to make sure this is real. Or that's a paraphrase, but he did say pinch himself because he's enjoying himself so much. So he is living it up. And today, he's probably even happier today because they signed one of his boys, Randall Cobb, 32-year-old receiver, soon to be 33. Hasn't really been starting caliber in about 4 or 5 years, but they signed him. They bring him to the Jets. And, Rob, remember that wish list story that was out there, that report by Deanna Rossini that Rodgers shot down? Well, it seems like it was pretty accurate. You know, they went and got Alan Lazard, who was on the quote-unquote wish list. They went and got Randall Cobb, who was on the quote-unquote wish list. They tried to get OBJ, who was on the quote-unquote wish list. So Mercedes Lewis, I think, was also on there. We'll see if he's coming down the pike. But Aaron Rodgers, Rob, so far so good in that not only is he hanging out with his new teammates, he was at the game last night with Sauce Gardner, the Knicks, and the Heat, but he also is at practice throwing with the new receivers. And another thing he said on McAfee, Rob, was that he compared Garrett Wilson. I mean, obviously he didn't say he's as good as Devontae Adams, but he said he reminds him of that. He reminds him of Devontae Adams, and Garrett Wilson is special. There's no doubt about that. So, Rob, what are your early thoughts? I mean, obviously what really is going to matter is how they play football. But so far, Aaron Rodgers has been engaged, to say the least. And it started with his press conference, where he willingly and unsolicitedly, unprovoked, brought up Super Bowls. So he really seems, this might rejuvenate him. It certainly seems that way at this point.
I just think when you go to a new town, I don't know, Chris, you know, you've moved from different places to different places, and it does rejuvenate you, right? I mean, I've had 30 jobs, you know, when I left the Detroit Free Press and I went to Newsday, you know what I mean? Like, okay, I'm a columnist in New York now. And then when I left and went to back to the Detroit News, you know, like, it feels different. And in this case, there's nothing to do in Green Bay. Let's just be honest, okay? Like, so there was no
he
photo
got more
op.
Stuff going on his block in New York,
right?
Than he does in the whole town of Green
what
Bay.
photo ops over the last 17 years in Green Bay were there, right?
Right.
I mean, really. And you come to New York. I told you when I went into the Holland Tunnel, right? Right before. Have you seen it? Have you been? You come through New York? Have you been driving or taking the train?
Holland Tunnel? Yeah. No,
yeah, but you see, have you? Right, you take the Holland Tunnel.
Yeah.
There's a big billboard there, one of those, you know, that changes and lights and all that. Right there as you're going into the, because when I went to MLB Network, I was coming back and I saw it bright as day. And now you come to New York and people want to take you out. You know, like, hey, we want to take you out. We want to show you the town, what a great town this is. There's so much to do. You're at a Rangers playoff game. You're at a Knicks playoff game. You know, like, that's what you do when you go to New York. So I think he's doing all of that. It would be weird if you didn't see him around, I think, given that, you know, at that age, you feel like you have a new lease on life. That don't mean you're going to win anything, but it's just a different feel to me from years gone by. And he's this guy grew up in Northern California, Chris, not that far from San Francisco, right?
Right. He's not a small town.
He's not a small town guy, but he lived in Green Bay for a long time. Right. And I bet you he's feeling like, man, what have I been doing? Like, all these years, like.
Well, remember, we heard Kevin Garnett after he went to Boston and won championships. And I mean, Rob, I think this is crazy to say, feels like, but I think people think of Kevin Garnett as a Celtic more than they do as a Minnesota Timberwolf.
I don't know.
Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Really? Because he obviously won it with the Boston Celtics.
He played a long time in Minnesota. Came out of high school.
His better years individually were obviously in Minnesota. But remember, they went like 8 straight years or something without making the playoffs. Or at least getting out of the first round, maybe. But it was, and then he did go to the conference finals one year with Sam Cassell, and Latrell Sprewell.
Yeah, I do remember that.
But he did say, Rob,
that was Flip Saunders, right, Chris? The late Flip Saunders, was he the coach?
Yeah, Flip was the coach. I can't believe. But he did say that he wishes he had, done it earlier, and as much as he didn't want to leave Minnesota. So
and even
maybe
Devontae Adams wanted out of Green Bay. Like there's got a lot of history and wearing that jersey, but there's another life. And I'm not saying when you're playing football game, you don't have to. I'm sure Aaron Rodgers has a place there in Green Bay that costs nothing, and then he has a couple of places, probably in Miami and then Northern California, Chris. You know what I mean? But it's different when you can get out and move around in the city as a star player, as a player people recognize. This guy was on track at one point to replace Alex Trebek on Jeopardy. Do you know what I'm saying? Like he's a celebrity.
No doubt. And I think, Rob, fairly or unfairly. Now look, when Aaron Rodgers was traded, heck, before he was traded to the Jets, when the rumors were out there, when he confirmed it, the expectations in New York were high. They were high. That they're going, and you and I thought, okay, he's going to be 40. He's coming off a bad year. Is he really going to be able to deliver on that? Now, Rob, and this isn't his fault. Unless you want to, I wouldn't blame him. I actually thought I liked him taking up the challenge. But, the press conference, he brings up the Super Bowl and, that third Super Bowl III trophy looks awfully lonely. And, now he's out and about, which is great and what he should be doing. But still, he's out and about. And now they've gone out and not only got Allen Lazard, who's still a guy that is in his prime and could help them, but they also go get Randall Cobb, who clearly is just a move you make for Aaron Rodgers to make him feel comfortable. Maybe at best we can say it, he can help the young receivers, adapt to Rodgers and learn the offense and all that. I think it's more like the comfort
factor. I think just
for Rodgers, right?
Like for Rodgers. Yeah. Like I want this guy. Who do you want around? Do you want somebody who's a glue? You know what I mean? Like, hey, Randall Cobb is my guy. He's not going to catch that many balls. There are guys, Chris, that have a spot that don't play that much. You know what I mean? In case somebody gets hurt.
Absolutely.
And so that's what that is. Randall Cobb's not coming to be the number 2 receiver or anything like that. He's coming to just be there to make him comfortable. And I give him credit. Like, everybody has a guy. And he's taking care of Randall Cobb. Randall Cobb, he wasn't happy when they got rid of him.
Man, he putting money in Randall's pocket.
No, right. Randall Cobb was done before, Chris.
Yeah, Randall Cobb. Right. He's indebted to Aaron Rodgers. But, Rob, my point is this. After all this, and again, I don't fault Rodgers for any of it. He's just doing what people would do. Go out and have fun. I'm in New York City. I can go to the Knicks playoff game, sit in the front row. This is great. But I think now I'm going to get my boy, bring Cobby. We'll have some fun together in New York. But I think, Rob, he better deliver. New York. He had better deliver anyway, right? Even if he was just had his press conference and gone back to California or wherever he lives, gone back to the darkness, whatever. He still had better deliver. But now that he is clearly so much enjoying himself in New York, that he has himself brought up Super Bowls, that they're bending over backwards to bring him to players that are going to make him feel comfortable. Heck, we could be honest, they probably hired the offensive coordinator for him. And they've done all this, Rob, and I'm just saying he had better deliver. Now, if after they've done all this, he goes out and plays like he did last year, he extends on his streak of 22 straight games without throwing for 300 or more yards, and it really becomes 30, 35, whatever. If they don't make the playoffs, I think the criticism will come in heaps and bounds. And so, I got to be honest, Rob, I'm starting to think he might deliver.
Yeah, I don't think that people are saying he has to win a Super Bowl.
I'm not saying that. I think a deep playoff run.
Okay.
I think he has to deliver. I don't think
the Jets haven't won anything in a long time.
But they've been to the playoffs.
They didn't make the playoffs last year. I'm just saying, like, they didn't even make the playoffs last year.
Right.
So I don't expect – I'm just saying – I'm not saying that –
So
that
you don't think –
he doesn't have any expectations.
The playoffs next year.
No, I didn't
think
say that. I'm just saying,
okay.
no, I'm talking about the Super Bowl thing. Like, that's the gravy if he can do that or get them to some sort of deep playoff run. But nobody's going to him like, oh, he better win next year. Like, I don't think the Jets are built that way. The AFC is stacked, Chris, with a lot of good teams. In their own division, there are two good teams. I think that if he does that, then people will boost up his stock if they can make a run or get to the AFC Championship game or something like that. But I don't think anybody, and it all depends. If he plays poorly, he'll be criticized. But if the defense falls apart or something, or, or there's some other angle to it, I don't know if he'll be totally blamed if he plays well and say the defense takes a step back.
If he's great and the defense struggles, I mean, people will
look at it.
I think there'll be a balance there. He'll still probably get some criticism, but yeah, I think there'll be a balance.
Right. If he plays poorly, they'll criticize him.
I don't mean when I say deliver. I mean, New York. A lot of New Yorkers are thinking they got a chance to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
I'm saying I think deliver, Rob, would be make the playoffs. Look like a legit Super Bowl contender during the season, and maybe win a playoff game. And there's a feel around you that this team they might be able to do it, even if you get beat in the second round.
Right. Remember,
Buffalo got beat in the second round, but there's a feel like, hey, they're right there.
And who knows?
I think they need to see that.
And maybe Buffalo, Chris, is going the other way after last.
Well, it might be. There's questions. But I think that's what Rodgers needs to deliver. I agree with you. I'm not thinking Super Bowl. But a lot of New Yorkers, you know how New York is. And like you said, the Jets haven't won in ages.
They've been waiting for the Knicks to win another championship, Chris.
Right. Aaron Rodgers wasn't even born when the Jets won his championship.
Right. They've been waiting for the Knicks to win another championship.
He wasn't even born when the Knicks won his championship.
I mean, come on. Like, we know that. We both worked in that town, man. Are you kidding?
Right.
The only thing they could count on, the Yankees, and the Yankees haven't won since
much the Yankees
2009, Chris.
And the big three.
Well, the Giants won 3 Super Bowls over the last 25 years, right?
Yeah,
the Giants.
Yeah,
that's it. That's it.
Yep. All right.